Elizabeth Warren with Chris Matthews. Chris?
Thank you. Well, Elizabeth Warren, I think you won tonight. And there's no reason I do this. I've been watching these debates all my life. And I thought, just talk about this, because you only got a few minutes. I thought that you had a consistent, even relentless message of populism. Pure American populism. Going back to William Jennings Bryan, we in the country have got to bring down the power of the big shots economically, and we got to disperse that power among the people.
This is why I'm running for president. Look, we have a country that works great for a thinner and thinner and thinner slice at the top. And this has been going on a long time. It started long before Donald Trump got here, but now it has really taken off. Our big chance in 2020 is not to try to roll back the clock, not to come up with some small ideas about we'll make a change here and a change over there. It's to make big systemic change, to take this corruption head on, to reset this economy and these politics and make it work for the people.
We had lunch about a year and a half ago, and I think it was on the record, and I'll now challenge that. I think it was. You made a point that you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
You're not a socialist, but you want to do something with the market to make it better.
Yeah.
What, succinctly, what separates you from Bernie Sanders in the sense of you're both talking, you should use a word, by the way, used to use in the 60s, kind of scared me, structural change.
Yeah.
That's very ideological. So what do you mean by it?
No, it's real. It says, look, right now we've got a political problem, and that is money makes its way felt in every decision in Washington. Campaign contributions, lobbyists, dark money, bought and paid for.
Can you tell when a colleague has been bought when you're in a markup?
Oh, come on.
Can you tell?
Look at the votes.
Can you tell when a colleague has been bought? Can you tell?
Sometimes.
Okay.
And sometimes you got to wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. But understand, Chris, that's like looking at this thin slice of it. It's not only the campaign contributions, it's how many times have their lobbyists been in to talk to the staffers? How many times have bought and paid for
how do they grease their way in? How do they grease their way in?
They grease their way in 40 ways. How about the revolving door?
Yeah.
You watch these guys. Did you read Jack Abramoff's book? You know what Jack Abramoff said?
I don't think I'd want to, but go ahead.
Oh, but you should. You know, you need to
He's
learn
the guy that
from
represented the Indian tribes. Exploited the hell out of them.
He is the guy who exploited everyone for money, and that was the whole point. You know what he used to talk about? He used to talk about how he would say to young staffers, you know, when you're through being a staffer, come over to our shop because we really think you have promise. And he would say at that point, he no longer had to stay after him. They would.
I know how this works.
So look,
they come around with their tans and their expensive suits, and they talk to the staffers about all the vacations they've been on and the golf clubs they're in, and they say, if you work with me from the inside, I may give you a job later. You know how it works.
So here's the deal. I have the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Here's the bad news.
Okay.
We need the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate, but we can attack this head on. And if we do, everything else we need to work on in the economy, in climate change, on guns, we'll have.
You're on a roll, Senator, and I was watching you all night on a roll. So just hold for 1 second.
Okay.
Brian, back to you then. I think we're going back to the Senator.
Okay, we just have to air a piece of business. We're going to be away for approximately 60 seconds, and we're going to come back with more from Senator Warren. We are back as promised. We're 45 seconds from the top of the midnight hour here in the East. Senator Elizabeth Warren remains with Chris Matthews. Chris?
We had Donnie Deutsch on, a real New Yorker, a big money guy in New York. I think he knows a lot of rich people, but that's fair enough. He says you'd get killed across the country, and I don't know whether he's speaking for that bubble against another bubble, but what's the reality of when you put your head together, you're not doing this just to win the nomination, right? No, I don't think so. So when you look ahead, and I'm sure when you go to bed at night, you're thinking, when it comes down to it, I got to beat this guy in the room.
Yeah.
Trump in the room, right? What's that going to be like?
So it's Trump in the room. Look, he's a bully. And the first thing school teachers learn is you never let bullies get away with it. You just have to stay. But here's the deal. You can't make this all about Donald Trump. He's an old show that people are getting tired of.
But he'll be there in your face.
I get it. But the truth is we have got to get out there. I'm going to be out there to talk about our affirmative vision. You know what people want to hear about? They want to hear about student loan debt. They want to hear about universal child care. They want to hear I've got a plan for 1.2 million new manufacturing jobs across this country. They want to hear about how you really are going to break up those tech giants and big ag and the big banks, the guys who are just controlling.
You're taking on Jeff Bezos and those people? Okay, let's bring in Lawrence O'Donnell. He's been waiting to talk to you.
Senator
Talk
Warren,
to the Senator, Lawrence.
Senator Warren, there was some discussions about what to do with the tax code at the highest end. There were some references to some of the proposals you've made, but the question didn't go directly to you. What about your wealth tax? And if you're putting a wealth tax over $50 million, what would be the top income tax rate and the top income tax bracket that would accompany that?
So let's start with that wealth tax. So here's my proposal. It says that anyone who's got a fortune above $50 million, they're good on their first $50 million, but the 50 millionth and first dollar, they got to pitch in 2 cents, and 2 cents on every dollar after that. That is the top 1/10 of 1%. Now, take a deep breath and let me tell you what we can do with 2 cents. Universal child care for every baby age 0 to 5. Universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in this country. Raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher to the professional levels they deserve. Universal technical school, 2-year college and 4-year college for everybody who wants to give it a try. $50 billion into our historically black colleges and universities. Let's level the playing field and cancel student loan debt for about 95% of the kids who have student loan debt. That's what we can do with 2 cents. And the reason I want you to focus there for a minute is it tells you how broken this economy is. We keep focusing on income, and it matters. But what's happening is it's the accumulation of wealth, these giant fortunes that grow of themselves. They have their own money management teams that keep growing the wealth, so that 2 cents from those guys, think what that would mean and how it would begin to make structural change in this economy. And let me make just one more pitch. You know, the 99% last year paid about 7.2% of their total wealth in taxes. You know, that's the property taxes in every part of this. The top, they paid about 3.2%. I'm just asking them to pitch in 2 cents, just level the playing field a little bit. And we do that, and tens of millions of people in this country, suddenly they're in the game. They got a chance to build a future. That's the kind of America we could be.
Let me ask you about how you do this, because income taxes are basically raised by people being honest. The government doesn't audit everybody. They just don't. So you're basically, either you're afraid of imprisonment if you cheat, but usually people just say, okay, I got to pay this amount. At a certain point, we know about taxes. People reach the point and say, I'm not going to pay, it's too much. How do you evaluate the cost of people's paintings, of their real estate, of the old antique cars? What government agency would be capable of even guesstimating the value of someone's wealth?
Oh, come on.
How would they do it?
Oh, come on. So let's start out with the fact, unlike income tax, which is literally about hundreds of millions of people, tens of millions of people, what we're talking about with wealth tax is 75,000 families. That's it. That's the whole deal.
Yeah.
And the way the law is written is to say wherever it's held, any place.
And who would go look for it?
So what we built right into the plan was far more sophisticated and more investment in the enforcement.
Oh, I bet.
So you bet, because there's real payoff for that enforcement.
If somebody comes around and says that penny's worth $10 million, pay up.
But do understand this. Those things are all valued right now.
Okay.
Those great fortunes right now, they've got their own teams of auditors. Okay. They're all there because they use them as collateral when they borrow money, when they make other investments.
You sound like you followed through with this. Thank you, Senator. And I did think you won tonight.
Joining us, Senator Elizabeth Warren. We'll be right back. Who is later today, at least here on the East Coast, where it's already tomorrow, if that makes any sense. Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden will be the top liners. Tonight, it was Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. She joins us now. Senator Warren, thanks so much for being with us. You arguably had the most buzz going into tonight. Are you happy, satisfied with how things went?
Oh, look, it was wonderful to have a chance to be out there and talk about how it is that we can actually make this country work come 2020. You know, I loved it. This has been my life's work, to talk about what's happening to working family, how it is that America now works for a thinner and thinner slice at the top, and how we turn that around. So I loved it.
You're obviously very strong on policy specifics. At some point, one needs to draw contrast with one's opponents. Did you feel you had those moments tonight? Was that something you wanted to do tonight, or did you just want to speak about yourself and your policies?
Look, I want a chance to tell people why I'm in this fight. And that means tell them a little bit about who I am and a little bit about what it is that I'm fighting for. This is why I got into the presidential race. And I hope other Democrats will get out there and make their affirmative case. I think as Democrats, that's exactly what we need to do. This is not about making it Trump, Trump, Trump all the time. You know, that's kind of an old show. I think that this is the moment that Democrats can say, here's our vision for the America that we can build. And for me, it means an America of opportunities, an America of our best values.
It's interesting because we put together a montage of the candidates on the stage talking about Trump. You were not in that. I'm not sure if we just didn't have time. No. We weren't able to find you talking about him, or if you just didn't actually mention his name.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned his name. You know, what I wanted to talk about is a lot bigger than Trump. I started out talking about corruption. You know, when you've got a government that works great for people with money, works great for giant drug companies, but not for people trying to get a prescription filled, works great for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, but not for people who see climate change bearing down upon us. That is corruption, pure and simple. And every decision that gets made in Washington is touched by money, touched by that corruption. So for me, this is about fighting back. It's about taking that corruption head on, and it's about making our democracy work, making our economy work, making our country work. We can do that, but it's going to take all of us.
Did you want to, this is a process question, but would you have preferred to be on that stage with Senator Bernie Sanders? Because obviously both of you are similar in terms of progressive policies.
Yeah, Bernie and I have been friends forever. And long before I ever got involved in politics, I went up to Vermont and did town halls with Bernie. I've given Bernie much of my work around when the housing crash was coming. And so I'm always glad to be anywhere with Bernie and to have a chance to carry on a conversation with him. But that's not how the draw worked. And so tonight, it was a chance to talk where there were a lot of other Democrats up there. And I have to say this, everybody who was up there, any one of them would make a better president than Donald Trump. Democrats were out there making the fight for what they want to do. And I'm glad to see that. I think that's strong. I think that's how we build a democracy.
At what point you were asked how you would deal if you're elected president with Senator Mitch McConnell? There seem to be a lot of questions about Mitch McConnell. He retains a majority in the Senate. Yeah, I know. It's sort of. I'm still scratching my head about the particular focus on Mitch McConnell, but I do want to play what you had to say.
Do you have a plan to deal with Mitch McConnell?
I do. We are a democracy, and the way a democracy is supposed to work is the will of the people matters. Sure, I want to see us get a Democratic majority in the Senate. But short of a Democratic majority in the Senate, you better understand the fight still goes on. It starts in the White House, and it means that everybody we energize in 2020 stays on the front lines come January 2021. We have to push from the outside, have leadership from the inside, and make this Congress reflect the will of the people.
Essentially you're saying there needs to be, all the people who come out for a 2020 election, that needs to be sustained that is not something we have seen happen in recent history, certainly. Is that realistic?
So, Anderson, that I'm running a campaign that's different from most of the Democrats in this primary. I have done more than 100 town halls. I've taken more than 2,000 questions. I've been to 21 states and Puerto Rico. And the reason I've done that is because I believe that's how we build a grassroots movement. And the way I've had the time to do that is I haven't been doing fundraisers with millionaires. I haven't been going behind closed doors and saying who knows what to people with money and power already. I have been investing in building a grassroots movement, in asking people to pitch in $5, to volunteer an hour, to go to ElizabethWarren.com and just sign up to get on the email list. Because we have this chance as Democrats right now, this year, to build the kind of strong grassroots movement that is going to serve us come November 2020, help us win not just the White House, but help us win up and down the ticket. But more importantly, it's going to be building the momentum for real change come January 2021. Look, I'm not running for president so that I can talk about change come 2021. I'm running for president because I want us to make real change, and I'm laying the foundation for that right now.
Senator Warren, appreciate your time. Thank you.
You bet.